Floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I am Yasha Franklin Hodge. I am the chair of the Public Improvement Commission, and I call to order this Public Improvement Commission hearing of August 8th, 2024. Mr. Lyman, would you please take the roll call?
Would the representative from the Public Works Department please state their name for the record?
Yasha Franklin Hodge.
Property Management Department.
Callahan.
Transportation Department.
Amy Gordon.
Inspectional Services Department.
Brian Roder.
Water and Sewer Commission.
Denise Devlin.
And Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Sarah Leo.
All set.
Thank you so much. All right, on to our first order of business, the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on July 25th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the hearing of July 25th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? So moved. On to our next item, public hearing continued number 1 on a petition by the Wash LLC for the making of specific repairs within Washington Street Public Way, Boston proper, located on its northwesterly side at address numbers 1395 to 1405, generally between Union Park Street and Pelham Street / Monsignor Reynolds Way, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated specialty pavement, street lighting infrastructure, hydrants, and bike racks. New business on July 11th, first public hearing on July 25th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repairs Plan, 1395 to 1405 Washington Street, Boston, 2 sheets dated August 1st, 2024. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, give us a very brief reintroduction to this project, and let us know about any changes since your last hearing.
Good morning, my name is Giovanni Federa with Federa Engineering. I'm the project engineer. I believe I might be the only one attending today, but if Chris is in attendance, that's great. I'll share my screen and...
Giovanni, yep, this is Chris Wally, Copper Development. I'm the owner's rep. I'm here as well as Peter Georgantis, who is the developer, is joining us this morning as well.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, glad to see you guys are here. So just to go over a brief reintroduction. We initially proposed this project with a curb bump out into the parking lane. That was the first meeting. The intent of that bump out was to have a wider sidewalk along the proposed building. Since then, we made the revisions to just move the curb about 2 or 1.5 feet out into the curb, the drive lane. I'm sorry, not the drive lane, the parking lane. And we did propose that at the previous meeting, and we previously proposed having 15-minute parking kind of in this pinch point area. That's what we previously had. We have made changes since. The only changes that we really made were nothing to do with the curbing, but just the parking, right? And we shifted the 15-minute parking, instead of being right here in this pinch point area, we shifted it closer to this existing fire hydrant, which will remain. And the concern of that was because we were previously showing 35-foot length for 2 parking spots, which raised a concern for not meeting the 20-foot minimum of parking. So we now have 20-foot minimum parking spots right here, and this would be I think there is a parking meter currently there in place that will remain, so parking is not going to change except for the 2 spots that are closest to this fire hydrant, which will specifically be for 15-minute parking. The other changes include shifts of the bus lane and the travel lane, as well as this left turn only that's going eastbound. And those widths will be accordingly as shown on the plan. These are the biggest changes, the only real changes that we have made since the previous meeting. So I don't know if Chris or Peter want to add anything, but that summarizes the changes, and I'm open to answer any questions.
I think you covered it, Giovanni.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, questions, comments?
I will say that we'll probably want tweaks to this pavement marking, just minor, right, dimensions and stuff like that, before it's final. And you have a parking meter to remain in the middle of your 15-minute parking, zone. Also, this is not BTD standard signage for that either. So, on the signage and markings, you'll have to come, right, work with us, but the curb work and everything else like that is fine.
All right, anyone else? Questions, comments? All right, nothing to add from my perspective. Just want to say thank you to the proponents for sort of working through the different options here. We appreciate the kind of collaborative spirit around trying to make the best thing we can do here. So with that, do I hear a motion to approve oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask for PIC staff and public comment. So I skipped that step. So PIC staff, anything you want to add?
I will just mention that based on the revised design and some conversation with the project team, the previously proposed specialty materials, namely permeable pavers, have been removed from these plans. There's really no space for them anymore, so that's just something to note. I'll also take this opportunity to remind the public, if you wish to add testimony or ask questions, please use the raised hand function at the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. I do not see any at this time, so I think we're all set.
All right, with that, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing continued number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by the Wash EI LLC for the making of specific repairs within Washington Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
On to our next item, public hearing number 1 on a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Charlestown, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk reconstruction with structural soil, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street lighting infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, street trees, green stormwater infrastructure, fencing, driveway curb cuts, and raised crosswalks. Hadley Street between Parker Street and the City of Somerville boundary, Parker Street generally between Cambridge Street and Hadley Street, Cambridge Street generally between Stark Street and Carter Street, as well as at Brighton Street, Stark Street at the south of Cambridge Street, Brighton Street north of Brighton Street, as well as Caldwell Street at Brighton Street, Medford Street between Bunker Hill Street and Short Street. This was new business from July 25th, as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repair Plan, Lost Village, 4 locations, Charlestown, 6 sheets dated July 29th, 2024. Would the proponents please introduce themselves and their affiliations and give us a brief reintroduction to this project and any changes since your new business hearing?
Morning, Commissioners. John Monticelli, Principal Transportation Engineer with the Streets Cabinet. So as the Chief and others have mentioned, this was brought before new business 2 weeks ago. The impetus for this project, I think, was kind of kicked up from the initial proposals for the casino and other kind of developments that were happening around the Sullivan Square, Rutherford area. I think this was part of some mitigation from larger state efforts. What we did was we took a look through the neighborhood, engaged with those communities, stakeholders, and identified, several years ago, some intersections and street segments that were in serious need of either reconstruction or realignment. One of those for realigning is the Parker-Hadley intersection, and then how that feeds into the Parker-Cambridge Street signalized intersection. So we're creating a lot more definition to these streets so that people, one, have a place to walk safely on the sidewalks, and then two, that there's a lot more definition to where people are supposed to be driving and where they're supposed to be moving. The signalized intersection at Cambridge and Parker is being partially reconstructed so that we can achieve compliant ramps and legally compliant locations for traffic equipment and things like that. A couple raised crossings are being provided to keep a sidewalk flush along Cambridge Street and then along Caldwell Street. Across Caldwell Street, just because of the grading, as well as because of some of the community features in the area, specifically the Caldwell and Brighton crossing there lets people get to a dog park and a playground and other kind of green amenities over there. We're doing some minor street lighting upgrades as well in partnership with our street lighting folks, so enabling that for them to come in and do some additional work on their own. And then we've been coordinating with our folks at the OGI, the Office of Green Infrastructure, to settle on what parts are officially street trees under parks versus green infrastructure or something that's more substantial. So. And there is just one contingency, I guess. We are still I'm going to meet with the owners of that gas station in order to get some type of written thing for us. So that is still outstanding.
Thanks, John. Are you able to throw the plans up?
I'm sorry, yep.
No worries.
Here we go. This is that first combo, Hadley, Parker, Cambridge.
Yep.
Pausing for any specific questions.
I think we can just kind of flip
Okay.
through and then come back to the folks have questions.
Cambridge Street here, just to the east of that previous intersection, Brighton Ave here. This is one of those raised crosswalks. Also partnering with our transit folks and the MBTA to pay for and install a bus lane in one direction outwards from Sullivan to the Somerville line. And then this is the third considerable intersection north of that. And on the left-hand side here are those green spaces and play spaces. And then this is a kind of an add-on piece, reconstructing the sidewalk along Medford Street. Right now it is in a variety of states of disrepair, and we're proposing to add additional street lighting and street trees as well. And that's the last, these are just standard detail pages.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
We are all set on this.
All right, well, do I hear a motion to approve
Sorry,
public hearing number one?
Apologies for interrupting.
Oh.
We actually have a advocate for the Lost Village here just to give some testimony.
Oh, we do, excellent. All right, go right ahead.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak. My name is Brian Callahan, a long-term resident of the Lost Village in Charlestown, and I wanted to come in person and thank you all. I wanted to thank BTD and DPW and the mayor and the city councilor for advocating for us. We have been in desperate need for some mediation and mitigation. We're sort of sandwiched in between Sullivan Square and the off-ramp and on-ramps to 93. So we are the cut-through community for a tremendous amount of traffic. And we're sort of lost in the industrial age as well. So the changes and the improvements are not only warranted, we are very, very grateful that they're coming. Will be a public safety improvement, particularly where folks have been able to access the gas station at the corner of Parker and Cambridge Street by driving up Parker Street, which is a one-way, into an entrance. It's very confusing and very dangerous in the morning. So without further comments, I would ask that, and hopefully in the future, we'll see some additional trees and perhaps a speed bump or two to help us with ongoing commuter traffic. And so thank you again on behalf of the community. Very, very grateful. Thank you.
Well, really appreciate the support, and there will, speaking in my Chief of Streets hat, there will be speed humps coming to the neighborhood as part of our Safety Surge program, and happy to work with you and Office of Neighborhood Services around advocating for more street trees with our Parks Department. But thank you for coming and offering that support. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, hearing no other comments or questions, do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the making of specific repairs in Hadley Street, Parker Street, Cambridge Street, Stark Street, Brighton Street, Caldwell Street, Medford Street, as read in the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
On to our new business section of the agenda. New business 1, 22 Dry Dock Ave, 331 to 339 Northern Avenue, Tide Street, South Boston. Specific repairs on joint petition by 22 Dry Dock LLC and the Boston Economic Development and Industrial Corporation. Would the proponents please introduce themselves and their affiliations? I think we may have seen you here before, but please take a look. Please introduce yourselves and walk us through what you're looking at.
Hello, good morning. My name is Chris Sandy with Niche Engineering. I'm a civil engineer working on the project. I'm joined by Related Beal. I honestly don't know if there's a bunch of them. I don't know who's here because they're all just labeled as Related Beal. I'll let them introduce themselves. And then Cesare Cascella from Grounding, who's landscape architect. And like you mentioned, we were here 2 weeks ago. There was an issue with the public notice, so we're back for new business. We'll get that taken care of. And, fingers crossed, we'll be back for a public hearing in 2 weeks. I'm going to turn over to Related Beal, give a brief overview, and then I'll run through plans real quick, and we can ask or go through any questions then. So, Greg, Lindsay?
Thanks, Chris. This is Lindsay Newsom with Related Beal. I'm joined by my colleague, Craig Wood. Thank you again for seeing us. I know we're giving the same presentation we gave 2 weeks ago, but I'll give a quick overview of the project before letting Chris give a little more detail. 22 Dry Dock is an approximately 350,000 square foot life sciences building that is fully leased to Vertex Pharmaceuticals. It's located in the Raymond Flynn Marine Park in South Boston, and is therefore ground leased to the Economic Development Corporation of Boston, the EDIC. While the EDIC currently controls the streets in the Marine Park, they will eventually be handing over these streets to the city, and therefore asked us to come to PIC in light of that. As I'm sure most of you are aware, this neighborhood has historically been an industrial and marine industrial area. So our public realm and design here are heavily oriented towards maintaining and facilitating the industrial nature and truck traffic, and making sure that truck traffic can continue passing easily throughout these streets. The other thing to mention about the site is its close proximity to the waterfront and the fact that it's in the floodplain. So the building is elevated 5 feet. It took a lot of really good work from our design and landscape team to integrate the building and the entire public realm to make it in keeping with the neighborhood, but also in keeping it out of the floodplain. With that, I'll hand it back to Chris.
Thanks, Lindsay. So you guys, can you see my screen with the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is just a rendering showing kind of the improvements. So we've got Dry Dock Ave at the bottom, Tide Street on the right side, and you can see, just to point out, the extension to the bike path, which we'll be talking about in a minute. This is the improvements along Dry Dock Avenue. So just to orient ourselves, the IDB is on the bottom of the page here. The EDIC garage is in the top left. You can kind of see the little corner of it there, and then Tide Street is up here. So the curb is going to remain in its same location, and like Lindsay mentioned, because of the industrial nature of the park, and especially because of the cruise ship terminal, which is here, which can cause some traffic every now and then. We've been basically told we cannot move the curb here. Traffic needs to be able to flow in the way that it does today. So the curb's going to remain in the same location. We'll have from the curb moving in, there will be a strip of permeable pavers with some planters. Streetlights will be in that area, and as well as some bike racks. That is 4 feet wide. We'll then have 3 street trees. We had originally shown more, but we worked with the Boston Water and Sewer Commission here. They have storm and sanitary sewer, which is running underneath the sidewalk here. So the trees were not possible in all locations. So where we could, we took those trees, moved them interior to the site. So we'll still get some canopy coverage from that, but it just won't be within the public way. And then a new standard cement concrete, city standard sidewalk beyond that. There's an existing 78-foot wide driveway here that's going to be closed, and we're going to add in 2 new driveways, a 37-foot driveway here for loading, and then a 24-foot driveway here, which will be for car access to the building. And then just noting there's a new crossing, there's a stop sign here today, but there's actually no like official crosswalk. So we're adding in a pedestrian ramp on each side of the street and a crosswalk to cross Dry Dock Ave at the intersection. And then moving around the corner, Tide Street is in the middle here. We've got Dry Dock up here now, and then Northern Ave here. It's relatively similar. In some sense, it's just an extension of the work that was recently done along Northern Ave. We're going to take that cycle track, which is raised at sidewalk level, bring it around the corner, down Tide Street, and then it will slowly ramp down to get to grade at the Dry Dock intersection. And I think it's just worth noting, so the curb line here is going to stay the same as well, except for at this area where we're pulling it back for the access for the bikes. Really similar cross section. We'll have the cycle track, but then we'll have permeable strip with the trees and then a cement concrete sidewalk. The concrete sidewalk itself will be within the project site, so there's going to be an easement required for that. We've worked this out. We've talked to Todd. We've talked to the EDIC. When they turn these over to the city, that is when the easement will take effect. So that we're not asking for that today. That is something that they have committed to doing in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over for any questions.
Commissioners, questions? I will ask one, and to the proponents, but Amy, also feel free to jump in here, which is just anticipating that some of the bicycle traffic that will be coming around on that raised cycle track is going to want to head east on Dry Dock Avenue. I'm just curious about the design of that transition and any pavement markings, and whether there's thought given to sort of how people would then cross Dry Dock to continue east if they come around that corner, whether that's, and whether there's space for somebody to wait to make that crossing.
So I can jump in a little bit here. So if you were riding your bike down here, this is a one-way cycle track, you would come down to level here. There's not, at least as it's proposed today, there wouldn't be any specific cycle striping. There's a stop sign, it's a freeway stop, so the cycles then, and they're going on Dry Dock Ave, which I don't believe has any cycle infrastructure, specific cycle infrastructure on it, to make the stop and then make the turn.
Okay. I think knowing that that's a three-way stop is helpful, because that will just sort of provide time for people to make that move safely into the otherwise the section of the road without any other infrastructure. So that's helpful. Second question: the reciprocal ramps here that are slated to be done as part of the 24 Tide Street project. What is your understanding of the kind of status of that and the timing of that? We just, you know, it's obviously we don't want multiple projects trying to build the same ramp, but given that projects sometimes stall or don't get completed on the expected timeline, we also want to make sure that we don't end up with a longer term situation without a compliant crossing.
Yep. Go ahead.
Sure. So the 24 Dry Dock project, as we understand it, is advanced in permitting and looking to get out of the ground as soon as possible. So our hope is that they do their own. In the event that the timing doesn't work out, we'll continue to coordinate with them. And if it doesn't look like their project is going to begin soon enough, our expectation is to do them ourselves, knowing that we can't leave a kind of impermanent solution indefinitely.
Got it. Okay, that's great to hear and very helpful. And I think we should figure out the right way to kind of do that check-in. But I think we'll certainly want to stay close to that decision, because it's a little, depending upon where their project is, they may be well underway. But if not, there's a little bit of a judgment call there about whether or not it's necessary for you to take that on. And so I think when you're close to the point of making that call in the timeline of this, please engage with the IC, and we can just want to sort of validate one way or the other the decision about whether or not you will construct those reciprocal ramps.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to add too, so we've been coordinating with that project, so the locations of these ramps and like, for instance, like the cycle ramps that we have here are coordinated with what will be reciprocal infrastructure on the other side as part of that project also. So, we've been talking back and forth.
Yeah, no, appreciate that coordination and no concern with the fundamental plan here, but just sensitive to things sometimes don't go exactly to plan, so wanting to make sure we've got a plan B. But it sounds like we're well situated for that, and I appreciate that. I have nothing else. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Yes, the staff or members of the public?
I'll actually just ask Chris to kindly mention your coordination with Massport and Sarah Lee, and just confirm what's been done there.
Yes, so Sarah Lee had reached out to us, I think prior to our presentation a couple weeks ago, and asked for some plans and turning movements specifically showing that the turns would work as they do today. We sent those to her and we got a response saying that she was all set. And I can forward that along to you, Todd, if you were not copied on it.
Yes, I was copied on it. I have it in my records, wanted to make sure you put it on the record here.
Yep.
All right, hearing no other questions or comments, will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on August 22nd?
We will.
All right, excellent. We will see you then. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to our next item, new business 2, Dorchester Avenue, Bailey Street, Huron Path, Dorchester, specific repairs on a petition by the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. The proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and talk us through what you are proposing to do.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mike Dewey. I'm with Jacobs Engineering. I'm here with Alex Repun and Brendan Casey from the MBTA. I'll be presenting the specific repairs at Ashmont Busway, which includes Dorchester Avenue, Bailey Street, and the Huron Path. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Perfect. So these repairs, as just a little bit of background, this project is being completed as part of the MBTA system-wide accessibility groups program to remove barriers to accessibility at multiple locations within the MBTA system. There are 2 locations being presented here today, which are within the City of Boston right-of-way. So the first location, as shown on the screen, is at the intersection of Dorchester Avenue, Bailey Street, and the Ashmont Busway exit. The improvements propose to reconstruct the pedestrian ramps on both the southeastern corner and the southwestern corner of Dorchester Avenue and Bailey Street, while also confirming compliance for the reciprocal ramps on either side of those. Along the southwestern corner, we're proposing a curb bump out to better delineate the crossing. Within that curb bump out, we're proposing some minor green infrastructure seating, doing a wildflower mix. The whole improvements, again, just improve pedestrian accessibility, new pedestrian ramps, sidewalks, and similar infrastructure. So I'll pause at this point on this first location for any comments. Oh, and I just one other thing to note here is there are additional improvements being completed within the MBTA busway. They aren't shown on these plans as they are not within the City of Boston infrastructure or City of Boston right-of-way, but there are improvements within the busway that will tie into the improvements shown on the screen.
All right, hearing nothing, I think we can just go through these and then jump back if there are business people want to ask questions.
Okay, perfect. So the second location is along the Huron Path, which is just south of Ashmont Station, located between Beale Street and Van Winkle Street. The improvements here propose to, again, remove barriers to accessibility. There is an existing set of steps located at Van Winkle Street. So the proposed improvements replace those steps with pedestrian ramps, cement concrete pedestrian ramp, level landings. And then because of the location of those steps, we're proposing to reconstruct the path all the way up to Ashmont Station, provide that compliance and accessibility. It's worth noting that within this area, this path falls within a 5-foot wide public city easement. We're reconstructing the path only within that easement. But we are noting, and we did take consideration into providing a 5x5 turning area in this stretch for compliance, so that we do not have longer runs without that compliant turning area. The existing path within this area is between 4.5 and 5 feet, so that's something that we have considered within the design elements. But this whole path is being replaced with a cement concrete sidewalk, and again, with the goal of removing the barriers of accessibility with the steps of Van Winkle Street.
All right. Do you have additional?
Nope, sorry, that's
Nope, this is it. Got it. Okay. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I was just wondering if you could clarify the status of any variances that you're seeking the Architectural Access Board as it pertains to Huron Path?
Yeah, so I know we had previously had discussions about the improvements along this section. Further discussions with the MBTA, we determined that the main focus was around the steps. So we originally had the section continuing south, which would have required a variance. That's no longer within the project because the steps are really the main focus here. So there are no variances that will be necessary as part of this, the improvement shown.
Commissioners, any other questions? I will ask, so Huron Path is a public footpath, correct?
Yep, it's a City of Boston footpath.
And does it provide, where is relative to the station, is there access to the station off of the footpath, or how does it function vis-a-vis the Ashmont station?
Yep, so just for some general direction, south is to the right on this page, so Ashmont Station is to the north. On this left side here, there is access over by this drainage manhole where the path continues up towards Ashmont Station. That is all fairly new cement concrete sidewalk, so we're tying into that existing connection to Ashmont Station up here to the left up in Beale Street.
Got it. And how has this path been maintained over the years? Whether, I mean, you're undertaking a significant capital maintenance and accessibility investment here, so I'm interested in that piece of it, but also anything you know about like operational maintenance of snow removal and cleaning and things of that sort.
So I am not privy to the maintenance of this path. That's a great question. I'm not sure if that's handled by the city or the MBTA. It is a city easement, so that is dictate ownership. The path today is just an asphalt path. But as far as snow removal, I'm unsure whose responsibility that falls under.
Okay, so what I'd like to see us look at is the question of kind of what has been typically done with this path from both a capital and an operational maintenance perspective. And I think really my question is whether if the maintenance responsibilities have not been formally documented anywhere, whether we can look at having an LMI that would come into play here to just sort of formalize whatever, to the extent that there is a maintenance responsibility that the MBTA has historically taken on, to formalize that. You know, this is sort of in many ways an access pathway for the Ashmont station, and hence the MBTA being the proponent to make these improvements. So to the extent that we anticipate this being continuing to function as such over the long haul, I think it would be appropriate to have an LMI that just makes clear who's doing what here for capital and operations. So let's have that conversation with MBTA and PIC between now and the public hearing.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I know Todd, we worked with Todd and he sent us the existing easement, so we do have that language. We can double check within that language. I know it was established, I believe, in the early 2000s. So hopefully there's some language in there regarding maintenance, but we can double check that language to see what's there and then move forward if there's no language or we want to determine how to detail that out.
I think that would be great. You know, the goal is not to have an LMI to have an LMI, but sometimes there's historical things that aren't documented anywhere, and I just want to make sure that we're all writing down what it is we're all signing up to do in the long haul here. So appreciate that. All right, no other questions from me, PAC staff or members of the public?
I think we're all set.
All right, excellent. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on August 22nd?
Yes, we will.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll see you then.
Awesome, thank you.
On to our third item of business, new business 3. Binford Street, A Street, South Boston, granted location on a petition by Vicinity Energy Boston Incorporated. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and talk us through what you are proposing to do here?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Don Sylvia. I'm the Regional Vice President at Vicinity Energy here in Boston. First off, Vicinity appreciates this opportunity to present our proposed expansion of our green steam system further into the channel side development on Binford Street in South Boston to the members of the commission. This project is to install a steam line, 12-inch steam line subsurface along Binford Street into the project. It will consist of a 12-inch and a 6-inch welded steel line, concrete encased, with, I think, 2 manholes along the way. Other members of the team that are with me today are Tremont Engineering, who's lead engineer for this project, represented by the president, Ken Stanley, and the lead engineer on the project, Orrin Anderson. I also have a few members of my staff, Matt Keogh and Jason Clark, available to answer questions. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Orrin and let him go through the project.
Hi, everybody. Like Don said, my name's Orrin Anderson. I'm having a bit of an issue sharing the screen here. So we'll just try it this way. Can everyone see what's on the screen?
Got it.
Yes.
All right, so here we have A Street and Binford Street, and we're proposing an extension of our 12-inch steam main to a manhole where then we'll service the G6 building of the channel side development with a 6-inch steam service and an associated 3-inch condensate line. On the next sheet here, you can see that we have the Boston Water and Sewer Commission lines and water mains marked out. This project will require an approximate 100-foot offset of the existing Boston Water and Sewer water main that will offset around our steam main, providing the proper clearance as well as around the proposed manhole. As we zoom in here, we have a plan and profile starting at A Street, our connection to a left behind existing 12-inch stub with a valve. We'll tie into that and we will do a little expansion loop, avoiding proposed and existing utilities, and then start heading down Binford Street with a 12-inch encased steam line and a 3-inch encased condensate. A couple hundred feet down Binford Street, we'll come into our first manhole where there will be a left behind existing stub for future expansion, as well as a tee-off for the service to the G6 building, which will be 6 inches. As you can see right here, the service will cross above the I-90 tunnel and down and into the building while avoiding an existing electric manhole. We have standard details of our encasement and trench designs, the manhole designs, our connections into the slurry wall of the building, as well as some other details on guides and anchors and insulation. Here we have detail 2, the utility shadow conduit, and then some standard Boston water and sewer details that are associated with the proposed offset. I know we've been working pretty closely with a lot of you on this project. We've received some comments. And I know you've all been looking at this, so if you have any questions, I guess now would be the time.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to flag for the team that on East Street, the city has a handful of on-street accessible parking spaces. So if those could be coordinated during construction with our office, that would be extremely appreciated.
Yeah, I'll just talk about that for a second, Sarah. Our nearest handicap spot associated with this construction is approximately 120 feet away from construction, but it will still be within the traffic management limits. We've identified that parking spot and we've added the note that if it's not to remain, you need to be notified with 2 weeks notice and it needs to be replaced. So we've done that comment.
Great, fantastic, thank you so much.
Commissioners, other questions, comments? I will ask the, okay, I see Tom's hand raised, so we can once we get to the commissioners, we'll ask you to speak, Tom. Since this has been a sort of recurring discussion point for past expansions of the vicinity scheme system, I was hoping maybe, Don, you could give just a very quick update on your progress towards developing, towards electrifying and greening the steam system, understanding that this is a hybrid fossil fuel and electric system that is in transition. We'd just love to get a quick update of to whether you're on the timeline for some of those transitional elements that we previously discussed. And then related to that, is there anything that you can share about the nature of the contract with the Channelside Development in terms of what kind of product they are buying and how you expect the mix of that to evolve over time, if that's something that you can share with us?
The first half, certainly, it's actually pretty exciting, so I don't mind bragging a little bit on that. As far as electrification goes, we're well on a journey here, well on our way. The first E-Steam e-boiler is actually being installed right now at our Kendall station in Cambridge that will serve both the city of Boston and the city of Cambridge. Anticipate that we'll have that online by the end of this year, right? So, you know, I think our initial timeline had us in October. I think maybe now it's shifted maybe to November, but we're well on our way. The next step, the next leg in the stool, let's call it, is the installation of a heat pump. An industrial-sized heat pump will be the largest one in North America. And that, the design is almost complete. We actually put it out for bid. We expect a response to RFPs within probably by the end of this month. And target, you know, early 2028 to have it online. So, you know, our actions are speaking louder than our words. I think we're moving along fairly quickly with that. Regards to your the second part of your question regarding the contractual arrangement with Channelside, I'd have to defer because I'm not sure what the terms are there, if I can speak to them publicly or not.
That's fair, and appreciate the update. Glad to see you're making progress. I think just the context for me is that, you know, when we have discretionary utility expansion projects coming before the Public Improvement Commission, we want to I want to make sure that we are using our public rights of way in manners that are compatible with city's long-term climate goals, and appreciate that the vicinity is making substantial investments to become a provider of green heat, but that is a long-term journey. So anytime you guys are going to be here for an expansion, I think we're just going to want to check in on that progress and make sure that we are aligned towards utility service that is compatible with the climate goals that we have. So I appreciate that update. If there is anything that you're able to share with us about sort of what the service provision will be for this new construction building, at our next hearing, we would appreciate that. But overall, glad to hear that there is continued forward momentum on the larger system transition that's underway. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll be prepared to speak to it the next time for sure.
Thanks. All right. I'm not seeing any other commission questions, so I think we can jump to you, Tom. Go right ahead.
Thanks, Chief, and members of the commission. Tom Reddy, I live at 21 Warren Road. I'm a member of the Neighborhood Association of Fort Point. I would just ask, so the vicinity did extensive work along A Street from basically West 2nd all the way up to Necco Street. Jeep's done. I don't know if the project took a year. It sure felt like a year, but maybe it was 2 years. I don't know. But I will say that Vicinity and their construction team did a great job working with the neighborhood to try to mitigate impacts while all that work was going on. So I would just, Binford Street, while it's not depicted in the plans, across the street from the intersection of A is a residential building. Binford Street is the only public way to Harbor Walk and Fort Point Channel. Binford Street's the connection point to the South Bay Harbor Trail when it comes in from Dorchester. So it's a pretty critical street for it, and also it happens to be a home of 40 24-hour residential parking spots. So there's a bunch of coordination that will need to be undertaken to ensure that the construction impacts are mitigated. I just asked that Don and his team meet with the neighborhood prior to the public meeting so we can get that ironed out so that the conversation in a few weeks is a positive one, Chief. So that's my ask. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Great. Appreciate the willingness to do that. So I will let you guys connect, and thank you for that. Great. With that, any other public comment or comments from PIC staff?
I think we're all set.
All right. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on August 22nd?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, we are on to new business 4. Alfred Street, Dexter Street, Charlestown, granted location on a petition by Timeout ESS LLC. Would the proponents please introduce themselves and their affiliations and let us know about your project and what you're proposing to do on the street?
Yes, good morning. I'm Hans Detweiler. I'm Senior Director of Jupiter Power for Development, and I'm the lead developer for this project. I'm joined with me today by Lisa Chow with BHB and Alexis Kachuk with her law firm. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and talk about our project. I think it's an exciting project. So first, just to back up, if you haven't heard of Jupiter Power, you're not alone. 99% of Americans probably haven't heard of Jupiter Power either. We are an owner, operator, and developer of battery energy storage projects. We operate the largest fleet of battery energy storage projects in Texas, and interestingly, Texas is the second largest market for that in the country as a result of all the renewable energy development, wind and solar, that exists in Texas. Our top priority as a company is to safely operate our projects, and we can't have a successful project if we can't operate it safely. Lisa, do you want to hit the next slide? A little bit more about the purpose of the project. I've already mentioned renewable integration. Massachusetts and Boston both have significant decarbonization goals. And a project, a battery energy storage project, one of the main drivers for them is that wind and solar are, great energy resources. They are increasingly cost-effective energy resources, but they're only available when they're available. And so battery storage projects can take solar, store it in the middle of the day when it's abundant, and then in the early evening when demand is higher and the solar is not available, put it back into the grid, make it, make the grid function more efficiently. Battery projects, similarly, offshore wind, it's a very similar dynamic. Interestingly, totally unrelated to decarbonization efforts, if there were not decarbonization efforts going on, you would still be seeing a lot of battery energy projects coming onto the grid. And the reason for that is that batteries are super fast acting. And so there are grid quality services that batteries can provide that they would be providing in any event. So you'd be seeing a lot of battery projects coming onto the grid. If you ever think about moments where you see a voltage dip where the lights sort of brown for a few seconds and then surge back up again, that's the kind of thing where batteries can respond super rapidly and avoid that kind of problem, and perhaps more importantly, avoid that kind of problem from becoming a bigger problem. Our location is connecting the proposed duct bank into the Mystic Station, and Mystic Station, really is an ideal location for that. There were previously thousands of megawatts of fossil fuel generators that were operating there, and so as a result of the retirement of those fossil fuel facilities, there's abundant capacity available at that facility. And in fact, if we weren't able to connect there, if we were proposing a similar project of this scale elsewhere, it would require potentially hundreds of millions of dollars of upgrades that ultimately would be borne by consumers. So there are significant consumer benefits to supporting the connection of this project at this location at Mystic. Project would be approximately up to 700 megawatts, and that's enough energy for about 500,000 homes. So it's a major presence on the energy grid in the future. We have been engaging in significant public outreach about the project to make sure everyone's aware of it. We've been working closely with not only city agencies and entities that are present here, but with the Boston Fire Department. We recently conducted trainings out on Moon Island for Boston and Everett and Chelsea fire departments. We recently hosted open houses, invited people from a very broad area to attend the open houses. So we're doing a lot of that outreach to environmental justice communities and other communities in the area. The site is a 20-acre site that's in Everett. It is a contaminated oil terminal site, so the project really is in many ways iconic of clean energy transformation, where you're taking a contaminated oil terminal site and converting it to a green energy site. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa, who can walk through sort of some of the specifics of the duct bank.
Thanks, Hans. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Chow with VHB. On behalf of the proponent, we are requesting the approval of a grant application on Alfred Street and Dexter Street for the proposed duct bank. As Hans mentioned, the proposed duct bank is associated with a battery storage facility that is being proposed in Everett. The duct bank is proposed to connect the battery storage facility to the existing Mystic substation. Approximately 1,000 linear feet of the proposed duct bank will be located in the City of Boston jurisdiction, Alfred Street and Dexter. On your screen right now, we have the plan for Alfred. So the thick black line is the proposed duct bank. The cross section is approximately 3 foot 3 inches high by about 2.5 feet wide. It will come out of the Mystic substation approximately here, northerly down Alfred Street. Next page is the continuation of the duck bank along Alfred Street, and then at the intersection of Dexter, it will turn easterly. And then this is the sheet for the Dexter Street proposed duck bank, and this dash line here is the City of Boston and City of Everett line. And this is the end of the proposed duck bank within the City of Boston jurisdiction. We have circulated the plans as well as an engineering report to the required city agencies and utility companies. In addition, we have submitted the plan to BWSC for review. And there I'll pause for any questions.
Commissioners, questions? All right, hearing none from anybody else, I will ask a few. So, is it correct, if I'm reading the plans correctly, that a portion of this duck bank along Alfred Street is going to go in the sidewalk on the, I guess, west side of Alfred Street? Is that accurate?
That is the currently proposed alignment, yes.
Got it, got it. And could I just ask about this sort of zigzagging alignment? I assume that you are avoiding things by doing this, but could you just give us a little bit of why it looks like the way it does?
Yes, so the proponent did extensive subsurface utility as well as existing condition survey, and you're correct, it is avoiding existing conditions, existing utilities that are located in Alfred Street.
Got it, okay. So understanding that this is, you're seeking with this here in the granted location, when I look at these plans, it appears that you will need to do some pretty substantial disruption to Alfred Street in order to construct this. And so I think one thing to, I guess one question would be, has there been any work started on a construction management plan for how to keep this street operating safely during what looks like fairly large and deep construction that may be taking place? What's the, where are you in that process?
Hans, do you want me to answer, or?
Sure, yeah, you go ahead and I'll chime in.
Okay, sure. So the project has not engaged or brought on board a contractor yet because the anticipated construction timeframe for this project is 2026. So we are a bit a ways away from the anticipated start of construction. We are before you today, though, because we are starting the permitting efforts for the proposed work.
Got it. And I assume that there are permits beyond approval from the PIC that you'll need for this. So can you just tell us sort of the granted location? Is that an enabling step for you to seek approval from other permitting authorities?
Yes, exactly. We'll be submitting a permit application to the DPU, and so we want to have this grant of location in place prior to the submission of the application to the DPU, so we can reference that.
I got it. Okay, that's very helpful. So, I think and that helps me understand the sequencing here. So on the construction side and disruption side, the thing that I want to highlight, right, is that this is a corridor along Alfred Street with frankly a lot of challenges from a safety perspective. There has been a fairly high number of serious crashes here. There was a pedestrian fatality last year at Alfred and Dexter, or very close to there. There have been some pretty spectacular vehicular crashes right along the stretch where you're going to be working. The nature of the street here lends itself to highway-like driving, and that often, too often, results in significant crashes. So I flag that now to say that as you approach construction and planning for that really thinking through the phasing of construction and the staging of the roadway to avoid creating any additional safety challenges is going to be extremely important to the city and to the transportation department and everyone looking at your construction permits. So I just want to put that on your radar. The other thing I wanted to talk/ask about, so the city is planning to install an improved bicycle facility along Alfred Street, likely this year. There are plans done. It is largely a quick build facility, which means paint and flex posts, but it will traverse sort of both curb lines of Alfred Street. So point one is that this project's construction will disrupt that, and so as part of the planning for construction, we would really want to make sure that there is adequate consideration given to cyclist safety in the CMP, because this is such a high-speed corridor, and you will be along the sidewalk and the curb line where the bicycle lane would be. We'll need to have some sort of alternative for both bicyclists and pedestrians that is suitably protected given the nature of the street. The second piece, though, is when I see you tearing up and presumably replacing the sidewalk along a long stretch of this, including catch basin movement, I'm wondering if you can explore with us the possibility of putting the curb line back in a slightly different configuration that might allow us to bring the bicycle lane up to sidewalk level on the stretch of curb where you will already be taking apart and reassembling the sidewalk. If you go into Everett along Broadway, you'll find other stretches where the city of Everett has worked with folks to elevate the bike lane there sort of opportunistically, and this seems like a good opportunity to do it with a major construction already underway, hopefully not at substantial additional costs. So I want to ask the proponents if they would agree to, in the time between, hopefully sort of soon from now, to work with us to look at potential specific repairs that might incorporate constructed elements to support the safe bicycling facility along the area that's going to be disrupted by this project.
Sure. So short answer is, we're happy to work with you on this and hear more about the specifics of the proposal. We got an inkling yesterday that we were going to get asked this question, so that was the first we heard of it. But yeah, we'd be happy to work with you and learn more. In terms of the values of the improvement that you're discussing, we certainly get the value and we share the value. This project, the main project itself, not the Gentile line in Everett, occurs on Beecham Street, and we'll be supporting a comprehensive redevelopment of a bike path to allow safe access of the existing bike path in Chelsea all the way to connect down to Broadway and then into the Alfred Street area. So we get that it's a high priority and are happy to work with you. And to your earlier questions on the construction management coordination, of course, we're happy and willing to do that as well. It's very important.
All right, well, we appreciate that, and I'll just say for the record, right, like I see a lot of public value in this project for its benefits from a clean energy perspective and a climate perspective, and so our goal here is not to ask you for an excessive amount of mitigation, but when we see a sidewalk being torn apart and rebuilt, there is an opportunity potentially to make safety improvements there at relatively low cost, or low incremental cost, so we want to take advantage of that where we can. The other element that maybe could use a little bit of attention is that crossing of Dexter Street at Alfred. That intersection itself has had a number of pedestrian injuries, and I mentioned a fatality. It's a pretty harrowing place to walk because of the very wide turning radius and the large volume of vehicles, including heavy trucks there. And you do see people crossing, with some frequency. There are folks walking along that pathway. So again, this is a looking for opportunistic ways to increase the safety for pedestrians there as you are coming through and tearing apart a section of that roadway. I think my hope is just that you will, or my expectation, I should say, is that as we move the grant location forward, that you can commit to sitting down with the city and just working through these things. And our transportation department and our active transportation team will be happy to partner with you and your design team to sketch out some specific repairs that can accompany this granted location.
Sounds good. We look forward to working with you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, that is all my stuff. PIC staff, members of the public, any final questions from members of the commission?
PIC staff is all set.
All right, seeing and hearing nothing else, will you be ready for your public hearing on the granted location in 2 weeks?
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you so much. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
All right, on to our last agenda item. New business 5, 375 Cummins Highway, West Roxbury, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by 375 Cummins LLC. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us a overview of what you're proposing to do?
Good morning, Chairman Franklin Hodge, members of the board, Attorney John Fulgini on behalf of 375 Cummins LLC. We are here this morning with 2 actions. The first one, specific repairs, which includes new sidewalks, curbing, tree pit and trees, and pedestrian ramps. And the second one is a pedestrian easement that we will be granting to the city. With me this morning is Ahmad Zrain from DeVellis Zrain Engineering. Ahmad will go through the plans and point out the particulars, but we would like to thank you for the opportunity to present this morning. Thanks. Ahmad? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, do you have the plan to share? I wasn't prepared to do that.
Bob, do you have the capability to share those plans that we sent?
Yep, I can share them. Go ahead, you can start talking, Ahmad. I'll pull things up in just a minute.
Sorry about that, guys.
Just wait for the plan to come up. Basically, we're proposing to rebuild the existing sidewalk that's on Commons Highway, which fronts our property. Currently, the sidewalk is pretty narrow. We're expanding it to 10.5 feet wide, all along the entire frontage of the property, and working with we're adding 2 street trees as well. And then working with the city, different departments, we've added 2 light poles along the sidewalk. We've also added a bio-retention area between the trees as requested by the city, which you can see in this location here. The light poles are spread, I think they're about 70 feet wide as requested by the city lighting department. There's an existing bus stop that exists in front of the site, which will remain, and part of the petition is to include that area as part of the easement that we have granted to the city, along with part of the new sidewalk will be on private property, which will be part of the easement that we have granted to the city. We'll be resetting the entire granite curb along the frontage, and also proposing a new curb cut for the project to go into a parking garage. That's pretty much the proposal. I don't know, John, do you have anything to add? Or?
Well, I would add that we also, Commissioner and board members, we also agreed, working with the Office of Disabilities, that we would, there's 3 pedestrian ramps that we'll take a look at and try to bring those into compliance. One being on either side of the Stop and Shop the closest side to us, and then another one on the Stop and Shop access off of Cummins, and then on the further side of that, and then one across the street. But also, we're working with the BPDA, because I think, as everybody on this board knows, the BPDA initially had, one of our community benefits was to install a bus shelter across the street. We went back and forth for several months on that, and they determined that the sidewalk across the street was too narrow to have that and still have accessibility. So we have a meeting tomorrow just to figure out how we're going to transfer the amount, our financial commitment toward possibly repairing some of the sidewalks and granite curbing coming down the opposite side of Cummings.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Thank you so much for the presentation and for mentioning our discussion about the ramps at the corner. I think we'd really like to see the ramp on the project side be split, so each crossing has one ramp. And then additionally, looking into options while you're having a discussion about moving the bus stop, is possibly resetting the existing bus stop behind the easement line to keep that path of travel clear from obstructions that is being formalized by the pedestrian easement.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Other comments from members of the commission? All right, hearing none, I see we have at least one member of the public who is looking to speak. So Lisa, go right ahead.
Yes, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
We can.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry I can't put the Zoom on, the video on. So I'm Lisa Beatman. I'm a co-leader of the Mount Hope Canterbury Neighborhood Association. I live right across the street, one block in from the project, and our catchment area includes all the pocket neighborhoods, the dense pocket neighborhoods surrounding this project, surrounding the five-way intersection at Cummins, American Legion, and Canterbury. And we worked with the developer as a neighborhood association a lot regarding this project. And including public realm issues. And there need to be more pedestrian improvements, and we've sent in a lot of documentation about that. I'm sorry I couldn't forward them to this commission in time, but I just forwarded an email to Chief Franklin Hodge that I did send him some months ago. This is a transportation desert area, so unfortunately it's very car dependent. The developer had promised significantly more off-street parking spaces, and then came back and said that they couldn't do that number. So there needs to be more improvements to make the site more multimodal friendly. And the lack of bus shelters is very, very, very problematic. In our perspective, as people who do use that intersection all the time in all modes, the fact that there's no place, there's the one bus shelter at the Stop and Shop, but there's 5 more bus stops in the vicinity of the site, of this site. There's no bus shelter. This is a place where there's the Stop and Shop Plaza with essential services, with a pharmacy, and there's other walking distance and bus distance businesses and services around. So there have to be ways that the city and this developer work to make this to make it more usable. The five-way intersection, there is a pedestrian island, which needs to be enhanced. It does not feel safe. The organization Walk Up Rosendale and our neighborhood association did a walk audit, which I'm happy again to forward. Again, Chief Josh Franklin Hodge has received that, where very specific no observations were made, including by the Disabilities Commission, in terms of the pain points. And so I just felt the need to take this opportunity to come and testify regarding that. Thank you.
And I can touch on that, Chief Franklin Hodge, if that's okay. Lisa.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll just say thank you, Lisa, for resending those comments. They were originally addressed to Chief Jemison and the BPDA, but I will circulate those within the Public Improvement Commission as well. So appreciate you bringing those to us. John, go right ahead.
Sure. Lisa and her group were fantastic to work with throughout this process. So the backstory is, and she knows this, we had the proposed developer here had purchased a project from another developer who had already had it permitted. The part of that was, at the time, there was like 60-something spots, but 44 units. We went back to the BPDA on a notice of project change, and the BPDA felt that that was too much parking. They wanted, a maximum would be 1-to-1 ratio, which is what we're providing, up to 44 units. 44 parking spaces for 44 units. Additionally, one of the things that Lisa and her group felt was important, and as she just echoed today, was the fact about the bus shelters. And we had gone back and forth, and I think Chief Hodges, you're very well aware of this. We had gone back and forth with the BPDA and are continuing that process even tomorrow, because the sidewalk on the street, across the street, when the engineer measured it, it was 7 foot 9 inches wide. And the information that we had initially received from the BPDA with their prototypes of what their shelters look like, they were too wide. We worked extensively with Lydia Hosley in the BPDA. Lydia was able to find some that were more narrow, but even the more narrow ones, after, again, months going back and forth, they determined that, again, it would not provide safe access around that shelter. So now we're working with the BPDA, and this maybe would be a benefit to what Lisa is stating too, in working with improving the sidewalk across the street. We're in those negotiations now. So we're doing everything that we proposed or said we were going to do during the process, and we would like to see that if we could put a bus shelter, it would be easier for everybody. It just, unfortunately, it just doesn't fit because of the width of the sidewalk, and behind that sidewalk you have a cemetery that is obviously privately owned, and we can't in any way push back into that to provide the extra space that we would need.
Okay, so I think it sounds like there's, if I'm understanding the current state of play on this, that there is ongoing discussions happening around alternative offsite mitigation measures for the bus shelter that wasn't able to be located. Can you give us a sense of, in that largely that's happening in conversations with the city's planning department, can you give us a sense of the sort of timing of that? Is this, do you think in 2 weeks when you come back, you're going to be able to sort of present the full picture of what you anticipate being able to do in lieu of a bus shelter, as it sounds like that is infeasible from an accessibility perspective?
Absolutely. It's been a busy week, right, with the negotiations going back and forth. I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock with Mike Sinatra and Lydia from BPDA Transportation, and just to kind of finalize what we've been talking about back and forth. So we should have no problem, Commissioner, by the time we're back here in 2 weeks.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I know there's been obviously a lot of ongoing dialogue between the development team and the neighborhood association, but it would be helpful to just make sure that you're checking back in with them prior to the meeting as well, so that they have a sense of where we landed on this, and we'll wait to hear some of the details of that conversation.
And I'll reach out to Lisa as well and just kind of update her where we're coming from our perspective. We're not looking to skirt any of our responsibilities at all. We are looking to push forward and obviously make this the best project, not only for the people that live in the building, also for the pedestrian experience, the people who will be using the streets in front.
I appreciate that, and Lisa, thank you for your comments. I also appreciate the fact that there are needs and challenges in nearby areas of the neighborhood, including the big intersection that need to be addressed potentially by the city or other projects. And so I think that's an opportunity for ongoing work between the Streets Cabinet, the Neighborhood Association, any other projects that may come through to look at how we can think about the neighborhood as a whole and make investments where we can. So thank you for raising that, and we will circulate your comment letter on the project to the full commission. All right, seeing any other members of the public who would like to speak, or PIC staff?
I believe we have somebody in the hearing room who wishes to add testimony.
I'm sorry, I'd like to speak. I'm a member of the same association as Lisa. And I would like to say, first of all, I support and I agree with all that Lisa has said, and our community is very concerned about that particular section of road, because many of us, we walk to the shopping area, and it's very, very, very unsafe, especially for seniors who do not drive, and we have to cross that Cummins Highway. The highway, I wouldn't say unfortunately, the highway has 2 sidewalks, and we can't consider any improvement to one with the neglect to the other, because we are using a highway that is bordered by the 2 sidewalks. Therefore, things like bus shelters cannot only be considered for one side of the highway, you need to consider the other side. We need to consider too what kind of maintenance will be there for both sides, both sets of sidewalks. So please remember that many of us are using that crossing at that T-junction, which is very, very unsafe for seniors as well as all other foot traffic that comes from the one side of the Roslindale community to go to the commercial area. So just want you to know that the community is very, very concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, and I think it underscores the point.
I'm sorry, my name is Eugenie Williams, and I'm a member of the same neighborhood community as Lisa, who just spoke.
Thank you, Eugenie. We appreciate you coming to give testimony on this, and I think it highlights the need for the city to be thinking broadly about the transportation needs in this area and where we have deficiencies and gaps. And so I appreciate those comments, and hopefully, this project can address some of that, but it sounds like there's more to do, irrespective of where we land on the project. So I appreciate you elevating that. And I see Lisa has her hand back up. Would you like to add some comments?
Yes, thank you. Yes, and just what Eugenie said reminded me of a couple things. So the entrance to this apartment building is going to be just before the stoplight at the Stop and Shop on American Legion, the one that Eugenie and I both roll our rolly carts or shopping bags across. And so what is going to be set up so that the people that are entering and exiting, particularly exiting the entrance to the apartment building, the residents, what is going to be done to make sure that they do not accelerate, as everyone does when they are particularly going up a hill, like towards Mattapan Square, that they're going to be looking for pedestrians, that they're going to be going slow, that they're going to be stopping for pedestrians. I think there's going to have to be a lot of signage, yield to pedestrians, at various of these points around the site. I've only seen this downtown, but maybe, or in Coolidge Corner, those electronic lights for people, for the cars that are exiting. You know, like stop light, yellow light. Just, you can understand. Please put yourself in our position where we're very vulnerable pedestrians or cyclists. And I also didn't see on the diagram the bike lane adjacent on Cummins to the site in their plan.
Yeah, Lisa, so we're pulling that sideway back significantly onto our property to make it over 10 feet wide. So that would be, that in itself would make the pedestrian experience a safer pedestrian experience. And then we'll probably, where the driveway comes out, have some kind of audible indicator to let the pedestrians know that cars are coming up that ramp and to avoid the situation in which you addressed. But we appreciate your comments, and I'll reach out because I know I have Rick. I think we're in a group text with Rick Yoder as well, so I can reach out to you guys directly.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Lisa. I think great points, and hopefully there can be some a little bit of additional dialogue. It sounds like on tap about that. All right. Do we have any other folks who wish to testify or speak on this? All right. Hearing none. Todd, anything from you?
No, I think we're all set. We appreciate the project's coordination with all the different agencies on this.
All right. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 2 weeks on August 22nd?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming here, and members of the public as well, for Lisa and Eugenie for speaking here. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
And with that, we have reached the end of our agenda. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.